Doo-doo. Hi, how you doing? I grew up as a bit of a nerd. I've made at least 100 DIY antennas in my lifetime, including a lot of Yagis, which are directional antennas, disc cone antennas, and a lot of dipoles. I even invented a unique device for hanging a dipole. I've written a book on field theory, also a few articles. I used to be a ham radio operator. So I know more than a little bit on this topic, but first let me first state specifically that I'm not interested in spreading false conjecture or hyperbolic, chicken little nonsense or anything like that. The facts alone actually suffice. There's actually no need to inflate or conflate anything. It's kind of fascinating, very cool, yet extremely nerdy. So this high band 5G is extremely directional, and it is perfectly applicable for beamforming technology. Let's talk about beamforming. And by the way, I suggest you look this. I'm going to sit here and talk about an hour about beamforming, but you could do your own lookup on Google. And this is no tinfoil hat nonsense. This is hardcore fact. My base station, my Apple base station in the back room back there that sends out Wi-Fi, has beamforming technology in it, and that sucker is like 6 years old. Beamforming has been around for a long time. What you do for beamforming, what it does is that the higher frequencies, which actually have greater bandwidth, for idiots like me and you and everybody else that wants to stream Netflix or whatever the hell on their iPad, their iPhone, beamforming technology is great. What it does is it signals out where the hell the signal needs to go to, and it directs the signal there through directional antennas. The directional antennas have gotten a lot better. And at 20 gigahertz to 100 gigahertz, i.e. high band 5G, where the danger really lies with microwave radiation, you got a serious issue, and the issue is compounded from a fact. And you've seen this on every TV show, you've seen it in every movie, and it's an absolute fact. Your iPhone, your Android, will tell you where you are. I mean, you just like enter in directions for Siri, right? It's like, Siri, take me to, Dunkin' Donuts. It will actually, guide your way, because signal triangulation vis-a-vis the towers is extremely precise. By the way, the current towers you're using on your cell phones right now is omnidirectional signal output. In other words, if you're over here, the transceiver tower for your iPhone, your Android, is beaming out all over the hell over the place. And of course it finds you, but it doesn't, dial you in. It triangulates where you are, but that's position. And this is not my opinion, by the way, what I'm about to say. It is hardcore, 100% undeniable flipping fact. And that fact is that the combination of the technology that exists on every damn cell phone, including the cheap ones, which is signal triangulation of where the hell you are, within a few feet, on top of the 5G beamforming technology, which is specifically designed to single you out. Now, it actually can't, laser dot you in, like you say, if you're standing, in a row of 5 people at 2 miles away. It doesn't pick you out over the 5 people, but it does actually send a highly directional signal. And the reason for this is actually several reasons. It's called harmonic interference. On high band 5G from 20 gigahertz to 100 gigahertz, there's a higher issue of harmonic interference where signals, if it's doing omnidirectional signal output like all current cell phone towers are doing, well, virtually all of them are, they could actually cause signal degradation. And the beamforming technology, from the perspective of the people that install this stuff, while factual, has a dark side. In other words, you could, and this is the insidious part about when people lie to you, they could be telling you 100% the truth about what's going on, and they are. You could do beamforming 5G, type in beamforming 5G on a YouTube search. You'll come up with 100 videos made by technology companies that are installing beamforming 5G technology. But what they don't tell you, even though they're being 100% factual with you about what the hell it does and why the hell it does that. In other words, it's singling you out. It triangulates you, and vis-a-vis the algorithms, it uses beamforming to direct the microwave transmission directly at you. Yeah, it can't, like I said, it can't spot you out of 5 people, standing side by side, but it's directed directly at you. Microwave radiation between 20 gigahertz to 100 gigahertz using signal triangulation that has been in iPhones and Androids now for a very, very, very long time. Many, 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 many countless years. It's brilliant. It uses actually an algorithm. I think those are called MIM towers, MIMM towers, if I recall correctly, is one type of 5G beamforming technology. That's bad. That combined with, I told you it's called Project Bazaar. I know it's a bizarre name, but that's what it's called, Project Bazaar. It was discovered by the government, the United States government, classified called Project Bazaar, that using upper sideband or lower sideband frequency manipulation, a microwave, you can induce one of 5 different emotional states. Fear, anger, confusion, lethargy, and there's a 5th one that I can't remember because I didn't write it down. It's fear, anger, confusion, lethargy, and a 5th one. And this is discovered in Project Bazaar. There's almost no information about it online, but it's not conspiracy nonsense. This is an established fact of what the government discovered back in the early 1970s. In other words, the years I was born. Here we're talking basically 50 years later. So this beamforming triangulation, microwave beamforming using triangulation that's already existing, triangulation and beamforming means you can literally send a 5G microwave transmission to a specific spot. And with upper sideband, lower sideband attenuation, to change the actual signal. I don't know if you know, if you're not a ham radio operator, if you don't know what upper sideband is, where you're actually using modulation of upper sideband or lower sideband of a set frequency for communication. But communication, just like sound, I mean, I could actually manipulate upper sideband or lower sideband. I can't do that as a human being, but a machine can do that. But these same sort of harmonics, like ultrasonic, can actually change someone's mood states. And that is a given fact with ultrasonic, which is just conventional sound. As far as EMR, between 20 gigahertz, i.e. the dangerous end of microwave radio transmissions, the fact that it is extremely directional, that you can triangulate somebody and induce an upper sideband or lower sideband signal makes its potential for wrongdoing extremely high. And that is not my opinion. That's not,
Project Pandora. In 1962, the CIA discovered that the US Embassy in Moscow was bombarded with electromagnetic radiation. The signal was composed of several frequencies. The Pandora project was intended to investigate and gather data on this Russian experiment. The embassy personnel was not informed of the existence of this beam or of the Pandora project. These are declassified documents of Project Bazaar. It says, the central nervous system of primates has been penetrated directly or indirectly by non-thermal modulated microwave radiation at power density levels from 4 mW down to 1 mW per square centimeter. The tests so far have established that the central nervous system was disrupted directly or indirectly after exposure to low-level non-thermal 4 to 5 mW modulated S-band microwave radiation for periods between 10 and 19 days. So let's see what is S-band microwave radiation. The S-band is part of the electromagnetic spectrum, covering frequencies from 2 to 4 GHz. So it's like Wi-Fi. On the next page I found this. The Soviets have reported in the open literature that humans subjected to low-level modulated microwave radiation show adverse clinical and physiological effects. The ARPA test results have demonstrated the feasibility of causing adverse biological effects on the central nervous system of primates. The potential of exerting a degree of control on human behavior by low-level selectively modulated microwave radiation should be investigated for potential weapon applications. Please understand that these documents are from 1967, and if a government hears the word weapon, for sure they will keep researching. This was just the start. So this is pretty good proof from your government that shows us that electromagnetic radiation can harm us in many ways. And this was only the early start of this research. It gets much more interesting when you start using millimeter waves. There is much more, I found many more documents, let me show you some more stuff. This document is called The Invisible Third World War. Electromagnetic Mind Control, the Moscow Signal. Protected by the general public's unwillingness to believe that such things can actually happen, Soviet forces have been beaming invisible microwave radiation at Americans for more than 20 years, mysteriously triggering cancer, heart problems, cataracts and emotional stress. It's another interesting document to read. I'm gonna put links to all of these documents in the video description. The microwave auditory effect, also known as the microwave hearing effect, consists of the human perception of audible clicks or even speech induced by pulsed or modulated radio frequencies. That's right, you can record an audio message, transform it into radio frequencies and beam it into someone's head. Let's continue with another CIA document. The effects of electromagnetic radiation on biological systems. This is from 1993. At present, a significant body of evidence have been collected on the ability of microwave in the millimeter range to bring about biological effects, including those on cellular level. It has been found that microwaves can influence the process of gene expression, and if you continue reading the document it will explain that it can even alter your DNA. Here's another document from 1977. Morphological, functional and biochemical studies conducted in humans and animals revealed that millimeter waves cause changes in the body manifested in structural alterations in the skin and internal organs, qualitative and quantitative changes of the blood and bone marrow composition, and changes of the conditioned reflex activity, tissue respiration, activity of enzymes participating in the process of tissue respiration and nucleic metabolism. The degree of unfavorable effect of millimeter waves depended on the duration of the radiation and individual characteristics of the organism. Man, it's pretty crazy stuff, right? Our governments are telling us that this radiation in the air is safe for us, but at the same time they have these documents that prove it's not. And there are lots of documents, I'm only picking out a few. Let's do one more. This is a document about an experiment they did with rats. A modulated electromagnetic field as a factor of selective influence upon the mechanism of goal-orientated behavior in animals. What they did is, they set up a cage where there is food on one side, behind a brass grating floor to which they could apply voltage. The rats could avoid the grated floor by going around it. First they released the rats a few times so that they knew where to find the food, and then they added voltage so that when the rats tried to get directly to the food, they would get shocked. After 2 or 3 times, the rats figured out that they needed to go around the grating to get the food. Then they repeated the test while radiating the rats with modulated radio waves. In the first 5 to 20 minutes, the rats experienced a disturbance in the avoidance situation, meaning they got shocked more and more trying to get to the food. Also, the reaction time became significantly lower. When they exposed the rats to the radiation for longer periods of time, they even stopped trying to get to the food. They stopped moving and even stopped swallowing food when it was inserted in their mouth. They didn't die, but they needed 24 days to recover from this. Sounds safe, these modulated radio waves. I think it would be a good idea to put antennas radiating electromagnetic signals all over the place. Not only on a big tower somewhere in your town, but also on street lights, in your car, next to your bed, everywhere.
A long-awaited U.S. government report released over the weekend said the most plausible explanation for the mysterious symptoms experienced by American diplomats in U.S. embassies in Havana, Cuba, and other countries were, quote, consistent with a directed radio frequency energy attack. That's according to a government-commissioned report by the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine released on Saturday, which marks the first time Washington has officially offered an explanation for what's come to be known as Havana Syndrome, in which more than 40 U.S. government employees were affected between 2016 and into 2018. Diplomats in some postings in Cuba and other countries were plagued with nausea, headaches, dizziness, and other unexplained symptoms.
What 5G specifies now that 4G didn't do is what they call millimeter waves.
A significant body of evidence have been collected on the ability of microwave in the millimeter range,
What they call millimeter waves.
to bring about biological effects, including those on cellular level. It has been found that microwaves can influence the process of gene expression.
Is what they call millimeter waves, which are up in the tens of gigahertz, from 28 gigahertz up to 50 gigahertz.
Millimeter waves help increase speed because they support a wider bandwidth, which allows those waves to send more data. But there's a problem with those millimeter waves. They don't propagate well. That means they don't travel through obstacles like walls, for example. So something is needed to give those waves more oomph. Smaller cells. Think of a cell as the area around an antenna where your device gets connectivity. In 5G, with millimeter waves, cells have gotten smaller and closer together to help transmit them further. You've probably seen the newer infrastructure, those rectangular boxes or nodes popping up on utility poles.
And so you can overcome some of the propagation delays and inefficiencies. Instead of broadcasting, like you see on cell towers, maybe in 120 degrees, now you can narrow that beam and focus all that energy so you can go further.
Think of it like
Directed radio frequency energy attack.
So the trajectory of those waves is now more precise. In 4G, there was a limit of 8 antennas per node. Now in 5G, hundreds of smaller antennas are used, and typically they're closer to the ground. Which means those radio waves at higher frequencies and in a more narrow direction are closer to us. And that's
Consistent with a directed radio frequency energy attack. That's according to a government-commissioned report by the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine.
The 5G physical layer is designed to have reference signal dedicated for each of the data channels, allowing beamforming to be inherent in the system. Choice of users or user pairing is critical for this system. Only upon knowing the channel conditions of the users are being orthogonal should they be assigned the same time frequency grid. Choice of users or user pairing is critical for this system. Only upon knowing the channel conditions of the users should they be assigned the same time frequency grid. Augmented channel of all the users in a resource block is used to generate the beamforming weights using zero forcing beamforming or eigenvector techniques. Eigenvector technique using the channel correlation matrix have longer time relevance. With zero forcing beamforming, however, we direct the signal towards one user by suppressing or nulling the interference towards the other users. The knowledge of the channel of each of the users over the resource blocks can be obtained by sounding channel from the different users. Then we can use the channel reciprocity of the TDD system to generate beamforming to use both in downlink and in uplink.
Quote, consistent with a directed radio frequency energy attack. That's according to a government-commissioned report by the National Academies of Sciences.
Something's going on, I'm telling you. I can feel it from a mile away. And I know sometimes I'm wrong, but this time it's true. I can see it like it's standing right in front of my face. Backwards, backwards, everything is backwards. I'm unsure of anything that matters. Don't believe everything you hear on the news. They are just manufactured actors, banking on the next disaster. Things are getting worse. Distractors. Backwards, backwards, everything is backwards. Backwards, backwards, anything that matters. You can trust what they are telling you. Fact checkers and their conjecture. They are corruption deflectors. Should be called the fact oppressor. False funds you'll find connector. Everything's the opposite of what it should be. What's right is dark, what's wrong is right. What's good is bad, what's day is night. Politicians inconsistent, proof is based off science fiction. There's suspicious contradiction, not to mention conflict of interest. I'm telling you, I wish I was wrong, but this time it's true. Backwards, backwards, everything is backwards. Backwards, 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 backwards. Anything that matters. I can feel it from a mile